All right, welcome to the December 17th, 2025 meeting of the Redmond Planning Commission. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call. Commissioner Aparna.
Present.
Commissioner Coleman.
Present.
Commissioner Gagne.
Present.
Commissioner Van Nymen.
Present.
Vice Chair Whittier.
Present.
And I am Chair Weston. Commissioner Copley is excused tonight. I'd like to thank the following staff for being present: Audra Cardenas, Jeff Churchill, Glenn Coyle, Michael Hintz, Francesca Liberti, and Chris Wyatt. I look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And any corrections to the meeting summary from last time? Right. Then I look for a motion to approve the meeting summary from December 3rd, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And that is approved. Next up is our time for public comment and items for the audience. This is for any topic that's not related to our public hearing tonight, later tonight. And who do we have to speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. We have one person signed up to speak, Mr. David Morton.
Great.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm David Morton, Redmond 98053. I'd like to bring to your attention a serious environmental concern affecting Redmond. According to the Department of Ecology's Model Toxics Control Act, or MTCA, contaminated site list, there are currently 10 contaminated sites within Redmond's Critical Aquifer Recharge Area 1, or CARA 1, and 2 sites in CARA 2. That's 12 documented contaminated sites in areas specifically designated to protect your drinking water. CARAs are among our most environmentally sensitive lands, zones where surface water percolates down to replenish the aquifers that supply our drinking water. The presence of contaminated sites in these areas creates a direct pathway for pollutants to migrate into your drinking water supply, potentially affecting water quality for current and future generations. MTCA sites undergo cleanup, and the Department of Ecology oversees remediation efforts. However, the existence of 12 contaminated sites within Redmond's designated CARAs raises urgent questions about aquifer protection. Are cleanup standards sufficient given the vulnerability of these recharge areas? What monitoring is in place to ensure contaminants don't pollute the aquifer? How do we prevent future contamination of the CARAs? Designating an area as a CARA is important for drinking water protection, yet the presence of multiple contaminated sites suggests we need stronger protections. Contamination in CARAs can persist for decades and spread through underground water movement, so the risk of contaminating drinking water increases over time without aggressive intervention and ongoing vigilance. Such intervention could include more restrictive land use regulations within CARAs, enhanced monitoring requirements for contaminated sites in CARAs, stricter cleanup standards that account for aquifer sensitivity, mandatory groundwater testing protocols, and proactive identification of contamination risks before they become MTCA sites. 40% of Redmond's drinking water depends on the integrity of the CARAs. The Planning Commission has both the authority and responsibility to ensure that land use policies adequately protect this vital resource. I respectfully request that the Commission add this topic to a future agenda for discussion and consider what additional policy tools might better safeguard Redmond's drinking water. I'd welcome the opportunity to provide additional information or participate in future conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
All right. In that case, we are going to move to the next item on our docket, which is the public hearing on the 2025-26 annual docket, specifically the land use and zoning map amendments at 6900 188th Ave Northeast. Bringing up Glenn Coyle.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm just going to pull up a quick presentation in order to introduce this item for the visuals. read my speech here. Good evening, Commissioners. I am Glenn Coyle, Senior Planner in Long Range Planning. I will provide a brief summary of the proposal before we move into the public hearing, followed by a study session. Staff is seeking a Planning Commission recommendation on a proposal to change a land use designation to citywide mixed use from business park and the zoning to corridor mixed use from business park. I'll provide some context and background on the proposal. This map shows the location as well as some adjacent property ownership. It is a single 5.82 acre parcel that has a split land use and zoning designation. It is located in the southeast Redmond neighborhood in the 6900 block at approximately 188th Ave and 192nd Ave Northeast. It is located in the former Cadman Quarry. As quarry operations have wound down, the lands in this area have slowly redeveloped over the last 50 years. Adjacent land uses include the Southeast Redmond Park to the south, undeveloped Lake Washington School District property to the north, FedEx to the west, and the Woodside and Woodbridge residential subdivisions to the east and south. Genie Industries and the Redmond Costco are also nearby. This map shows the specifics of the land use map proposal. The western 1 acre is designated citywide mixed use, while the remaining 4.8 acres is zoned business park. The proposal is to make the whole property citywide mixed use. This proposal, the proposal for the zoning map is similar. The intention is to make the whole parcel corridor mixed use. This slide goes into detail about what these designations mean. For land use, it means what the purpose of the designation intends and for what kind of uses are allowed to fulfill that purpose. The zoning designations help define the size and height of any structure. This slide summarizes the technical committee evaluation and recommendation. The detailed report can be found in attachment A of the technical committee report, which is in your packet. At a high level, these amendments satisfied all the criteria found in Redmond Zoning Code 2176. The final slide shows next steps and dates. We'll have a continued study session on January 14th. So this concludes my presentation, and I turn it back to Chair Weston. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to save any questions on this, I think, until after the public hearing. So we will start with our public hearing commenters. Who do we have tonight?
We have 2 people sign up to speak. The first one is Rachel Masur.
Great. And I'm also going to officially open the public hearing. Hi, if you could start with your name and address, please.
Sure. Rachel Mazur, 999 3rd Avenue, Seattle, Washington, Suite 4600. Here tonight on behalf of Hills, Clark, Martin, and Peterson. Good evening. Planning Commissioners, I'm Rachel Mazur. I'm Land Use Counsel for the applicant. Here tonight just to build off of the comment letter that I submitted earlier this week after reviewing the packet on Friday. We feel that rezoning and redesignating the parcel as proposed is a common sense solution. To allow residential uses on the entire parcel. I'd also like to address the comments submitted by Ecology earlier this month. The applicant is diligently coordinating with Ecology on cleanup strategies for the property. Cleanup is required by law as part of a future residential development, not the rezone and comp plan redesignation proposal that is before you this evening. I'd encourage you to review the updated comment letter from Ecology dated December 10th, as it confirms that we are fully enrolled in the VCP, it's the expedited version of the voluntary cleanup program. This yields a more efficient outcome, and it requires more of the applicant that we are seeking this to be resolved as soon as possible, complying with all law. So just wanted to clarify that. And like I mentioned at the last study session, we're happy to answer any questions with follow-up written submittals, so just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have David Morton.
And if you could also start with your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm David Morton, Redmond 98053. I'd like to comment on the proposed land use and zoning map amendments for 6900 188th Avenue Northeast. I urge you to carefully consider the contamination issue before making your recommendation. The Washington Department of Ecology's December 10th letter reveals a critical fact. Residential development requires a revised cleanup plan, likely necessitating full removal of PAH-contaminated soils rather than the capping method approved for business development. This changes the economics of this site. Under current business park zoning, Ecology has already issued a no further action likely opinion, allowing contaminated soils to be capped. This is an economically feasible cleanup approach. Full soil removal required for residential use means excavating and disposing of potentially tens of thousands of cubic yards of contaminated material at hazardous waste facilities. The cost difference is enormous. Here's the irony. The site contamination makes business park development more practical, not less. Yet, you're considering a rezone that will likely mandate the most expensive cleanup scenario. When facing massive remediation costs, developers maximize residential density to recoup expenses, making the mixed-use aspect unlikely. The result will likely be 100% residential development on contaminated industrial land that was better suited for its current designation. The owner cites difficulty attracting commercial tenants as justification for changed circumstances, but market conditions may be temporary, and commercial development under BP zoning faces far lower cleanup costs than residential conversion. This proposal also threatens employment land capacity. Business park zoning serves specialized employment functions that cannot be replicated in residential zones. Once converted and developed with housing, this land will never return to employment use. Staff acknowledges this amendment may not advance comprehensive plan policies regarding job growth targets, economic development, and diversified mix of businesses. The 2014 Southeast Redmond Neighborhood Plan deliberately split this zoning to balance residential amenities with local employment. That vision remains sound. Residential development on this site is more expensive and eliminates practical employment land. The contamination issue indicates that this site should remain designated as business park. I urge you to recommend denial of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
All right. In that case, I will close the verbal portion of the public hearing, but keep the written portion open. All right, back to Glenn for our study session.
Would you like us to pull up the issues matrix?
Let's start with the issues matrix, and then what I'm hoping to do tonight, I know there are a lot of different opinions and priorities that have been raised in earlier discussion about this issue. And so what I'm hoping is we can kind of get all of that out into discussion tonight. Our goal is to maybe not reach a decision tonight, but be working towards a goal. And we have one more session on this in January where we will come up with a final recommendation. So I know there were some emails that went out today where commissioners had arguments to raise. We're going to fold that into the whole conversation after we do the issues matrix.
All right. Guess we can just go through this sequentially. So the first issue was raised by Commissioner Copley, just was asking kind of how much business park land is owned in Redmond. So we're able to kind of break this down a little bit. Just a couple of caveats to note in this. Staff sometimes refers to this property as Lot 7, related to the original development agreement for the whole area that also includes Costco and some other properties. So that's why you might hear Lot 7, you might hear Redmond Flex, or you might hear the address, but they all refer to the same property. It is also a long parcel number, which we don't use, but it's noted elsewhere. So again, This table just kind of breaks down some numbers related to business park zoning. One thing we did do is that business park zoning kind of has like generally two general locations in Redmond, the Sammamish Valley, kind of like Willows Road area, and then southeast Redmond. So this just kind of shows some of the percentages of how that breaks down. I know there are also sometimes little tweaks on the percentages, and that's just, we use the GIS mapping layer to kind of analyze this. So sometimes you might see the percentages slightly different in other locations, and that's just how things are mapped. So, but they're generally, similar numbers, so there isn't any major errors. So I don't know if there's any discussion on that.
So Commissioner Copley isn't here to close this, but I'd like to do our conversation about it now if anyone has further questions, because I know I would love to hear a little bit more background on the Lot 7, like when that development agreement was. Is that information that you have? Was it this decade, last decade? Like, do you have a sense?
I do off the top of my head, I don't want to misquote. I mean, we could provide some additional information, but
Okay.
generally, there was a development agreement, maybe 2009, 10, 11-ish, that subdivided a very large property around, that was part of Cadman, that subdivided a large, around 188th, that was part, led to the Costco shopping place, and then some other land subdivisions. All those properties have been subsequently developed except for this property. But basically, it was a development agreement to develop and build 188th Ave along with, different utilities and stuff like that.
Great. Other questions? Commissioner Aparna.
On a follow-up to that, the development agreement, so it's not part of, does it go with the parcel as it stands right now, with the proposal as it stands right now? Or would it be something that they would need to modify? Because
That would be an issue when it comes to a specific proposal.
I see.
Like, for example, they've heard the term Redmond Flex. There's like an additional or a newer development agreement related to that. But again, that doesn't bind the underlying in zoning or land use. The property owner could work like to do another development agreement or maybe not have a development agreement at all. A lot of the development agreements are usually related to, and I know I can speak to that the original development agreement really spoke to putting in utilities, stormwater, and things like that. The 188th Ave extension, things like that. So
It's helpful.
yeah.
Commissioner Coleman, did you have a further question?
Oh, I was just curious because it's for number 3 that I had, but I thought there were some details in there about some of the history of the site. That was all. I just wanted to comment on that because you included that. I thought the question was somewhere around that. So there's some details in number 3. That was all.
Great. Thank you. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so we will move on to number 2.
Chair Weston just asked some questions about job goals related to 2050 and also what kind of data we have, generally speaking. We can note that for Redmond 2050, City of Redmond's allocated that we have to accommodate about 30,000 additional jobs. Right now, I believe we have, 120, 130 daytime jobs, larger job population than residential population. For our allocation, about 78% of these will be in our designated centers. That's Marymore, Overlake, and downtown, with the remainder located generally in the Sammamish Valley and southeast Redmond. For our analysis or our allocation during Redmond 2050, in which this parcel was located, we allocated about 450 jobs. How we did that is actually answered a little bit later here. So just using some quick high-level math, we allocated about, we'd say about 58-ish, 60 jobs for this particular parcel, and that's just looking at a per acreage thing. And as we note, that an actual rezone wouldn't actually change that allocation because corridor mixed use still allows for job-generating uses. Some of the more detailed stuff that Chair Weston brought up, we do not have that data. It's generally not available. It could be done possibly by surveys, and as part of our economic development strategic plan to see if we could get more refined data, but that's actually very challenging for all communities, counties, et cetera, et cetera. But one stat we did find that we were able to pull is that small businesses represent a large share of Redmond's economy, that 93% of businesses have less than 50 employees, but they employ about 18% of all workers in Redmond. So that kind of shows that we have a lot of smaller business, probably like consultant-type businesses and things like that, and we have like a few major employers that have lots of employees. So that's kind of what we have on that question.
Yeah, I appreciate just getting a little bit better sense of this. I think it's helpful because it's it's very hard to compare, like when we have the overall land use map and then scaling it back and looking at these enormous job numbers, trying to figure out what the balance is. The division's useful, and then if the city is not tracking other indicators, then I think that gives me the information that I'm not missing something in making a decision. So thanks for doing this, and I'm happy to close.
Next comment was related to kind of the origin of why there was kind of a split designation. I provided an answer at the previous meeting, but we were able to add a little bit of information. We'll just note that, well, there's probably earlier designations, but as of 2007, we had, the city had depicted this as multifamily urban. With the Redmond 2030 comp plan update, that designation was continued. There was also some of the early discussions about neighborhood commercial and those kind of concepts. So there was some proposed areas for neighborhood commercial on the 2011 land use map. And these show the maps here. And in 2014, there was a neighborhood plan update for Southeast Redmond, and this is kind of where the current land use zoning kind of came into effect. So the Woodbridge development had been completed by that time, and the city was pursuing ideas of design district, which usually had a mix of jobs and housing. And then also the kind of, I believe around this time was probably when the extension of 188th Ave was probably kind of more, became more official. And again, we don't have the exact history on this, but this was at the point where, a small piece of, about a 1 acre piece of land along the future 188th Ave was designated as neighborhood commercial, and the rest of that area was done as design district. And it should be noted that when these were done, sometimes the parcels change, the property boundaries change and things like that. So it's not necessarily where the split zoning could have come from, is that just how the property lines and subdivisions subsequently happened there. And as we noted, that we had a Redmond 2050, we had just a lot of zoning consolidation, but generally speaking, we maintained, even though they got new names, neighborhood commercial became corridor mixed use or citywide mixed use, and our design districts went away, and we just allocated kind of based on what those design districts were already to different categories. So for this particular area, it went to business park because the underlying zoning already was similar to that. So that's pretty much information on that.
I'm happy to close it. Thank you, Glenn. The comment. Sorry, before we close it, Commissioner Pennyman has a comment. I wanted to just make a quick observation. What was new to me a little bit was, at least since 2014, this has been designated in a similar fashion to where it is in essence of mixed use neighborhood business, commercial and residential. I hadn't realized it went back, what's now 11 years. Sorry, not adding up properly. So it's been that way for a while. So this is quite a bit of a change, but it doesn't look, has anything happened on the site since then? It sounds like no, right? Am I missing that?
No, this property is undeveloped.
Okay, so it's been that way since then and no one's wanted to develop it since then.
Yes, its last use was as part of the Cadman Quarry probably 15, 20 years ago.
Can I just ask just a quick follow-up question? Has anybody actually wanted to try to do any development on this site since then, or actually had any applications? I just wonder if you asked that question.
Well, the property owner currently has a development agreement and a proposal for a property development called Redmond Flex, which is like kind of a manufacturing type, multi-purpose type building.
No, I was more, sorry, guys, I was more curious, like, since 2014, has there been any other applications for this piece of land for development?
I'm not aware of that, but I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
And also, just for clarity, the only person who could develop the land, or like the only entity that could develop is the property owner. So if they didn't choose to develop and then sold or whichever, then that would be a normal flow of business.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Commissioner Van Nyman.
My general question is I don't get it. I'm going to try and ask something more specific than that. I'm lost between the ordinance in 2014 per ordinance 275, that part, and then the next paragraph starts, the specific zoning divided the parcel into two zones. I'm not following how we got from point A to point B. And I guess related question and perhaps a future matrix item would be, are there other examples of that? So I'm having a hard time understanding how we divide a parcel and how common that is. And I'm not understanding how we got from, this is one parcel, and we've gone through these zoning changes and where the division took place.
Wait, where or when?
How?
How?
Like that, yeah.
So back in 2014, why and how did they divide?
And how common is that we would divide one parcel? Because that's fundamentally where I'm getting hung up on a lot of this. Is like, fundamentally, I look at this and say, why on earth would we have two zonings on one parcel? That makes, on the surface, as a non-expert, that makes no sense to me. So I need to hear what the reasoning was, and I'm not following it here in those two paragraphs, how we got there.
I would say at high level, zoning and land use doesn't look at parcel specific. There's a whole process for properties to subdivide or reconsolidate that is totally separate to zoning and land use. Also, to kind of, on your question about split zone properties, our previous land use map had a lot of designations for critical areas and open space. And that actually led to a lot of split parcels, especially around like the base of the cliffs around Education Hill. I believe in Redmond 2050, we removed some of those designations because that did tend to confuse sometimes when folks were going in for a proposal, because say if your property was on a flat area and then half of it was on a steep hill, it would be in two different zones, which of course would impact development. So for that example, for Redmond 2050 update, we kind of remove that and basically let the underlying like critical area regulations kind of help, minimize development in those kind of critical areas, but they would still be basically put into one or another type zone. So I think that was pretty much, otherwise we eliminated most split zones on that. There might still be a few lingering ones here and there, especially I think downtown might have a couple or so. But I know as staff, we tried to eliminate that. But again, just to note that, again, zoning and land use is a different thing. Like, we generally don't look at it at a parcel level. It's really more of an area type thing. And of course, properties can subdivide, things like that, and that's a totally different process than land use and zoning changes.
I can
Yeah,
I can
please.
add a little bit about when we consolidated from 50 zones to 20, we looked at a lot of those split parcels, and we tried to eliminate as much as possible. So most of them were eliminated and went to one zone or other. We kept this one, I think, because we had the development agreement, and it had been like that before. So that's why it stayed like that.
So then walk me through again the reasoning where we're saying it was one parcel and now we want it, we intentionally made it two. I mean, not parcel, we took one parcel that used to have one zoning. And what I'm reading here, for some reason that I'm still not clear on, we intentionally put two different zones into it, divided it.
We do not have the history of what the planning commission and council's thinking on that was. But from looking at the maps, what we can see is that there was a goal to add like a neighborhood commercial in this part of Southeast Redmond. And when there was a neighborhood plan update in 2014, a specific 1 acre piece of land was designated as neighborhood commercial in an area that's along a major road and a park. And I believe it was consistent with comprehensive plan policies at the time.
Okay, so
That conversation, we do not know.
Okay, so, but the previous zone, and what I think I heard you say was basically would have mapped to the business park. The whole previous was designed, but would kind of map to.
No, I don't think so.
So, no. What, on the right that you see in black and white where it says design district, there was actually a few different underlining zones to that, if I recall. One of them had a little bit different uses. Part of those became the Woodside townhomes that was just completed. That was residential. There was another design district that allowed different kinds of uses, and to the north, I think there was a second or third design district. Yeah,
Hi, welcome, Jeff
Once we pull up
Churchill.
historical maps, we'll let Jeff chime in.
Hi, Jeff Churchill. Nice to be with you. And I worked on the Southeast Redmond Neighborhood Plan in 2014. So I have some additional history, I guess. As you can see on the left map that Glenn has, this area was largely zoned multifamily up until the time of that, for a period of time until 2014. And as part of the neighborhood plan update, one of the things that the city council adopted and endorsed was swapping a lot of residential and employment capacity. So a lot of that residential capacity went into Marymore Village, which was up until that point zoned manufacturing park, as you can see on the map on the left. And a lot of that employment capacity got put into a different part of Southeast Redmond, the part that is labeled Design District on the right map. That Design District had actually 3 parts. The southernmost part was residential, and that's now Woodside. It got developed, and it was zoned basically for townhomes, which is exactly where it got put there. The middle section had zoning that was like business park, and the northernmost section had zoning that was most like manufacturing park, and the idea was that there was a transition from residential to industrial, which is even further north than that. So that was the concept in 2014. The neighborhood commercial parcel, I think Glenn's got it exactly right. That had always been a goal, as evidenced by what's on the left map. And as part of the neighborhood plan update, the city council established like a specific location for it. And yes, it split a parcel. I even think at the time it was one parcel that got split. So that's kind of the history of land. That covers one conversation about land use in this area from 2014, and there were others, as Glenn said, that go further back than that because it was before that it was a quarry. Does that help
It does. I'm still, part of, I think the main takeaway is that the 1 acre was pulled out with the intention of that being more mixed use, and when we talk about walkable neighborhoods and that 1 acre was supposed to kind of serve that purpose for that area, but they weren't willing to designate the whole thing.
I don't know if it was a matter of willingness as much as that the neighborhood commercial policies and the zoning regulations at that time really only foresaw small neighborhood commercial nodes. So having a 5-acre neighborhood commercial node would have been too big. Nobody was looking for that. They were only looking for an acre. So that's why only part of it got designated that way.
It's a lot to think about. I still am trying to chew on what their purpose was in 2014 and how now, knowing what we know, how that might affect where we go.
All right, so, sorry, whose item is this? Commissioner Coleman's. Do you have one more comment on, do you need more comments, or should we, I just want to preserve as much time for discussion. Okay. Yeah, if you want to.
So the neighborhood commercial, just before Redmond 2050 all started, right? We had, think of the PCC area. That was the neighborhood commercial scale that was envisaged for supporting, right? And then now we've got this new vision of neighborhood commercial for everybody, and so the walkable neighborhood. So 2050 took that and tried to integrate it into smaller areas, right? But that original piece, from what I'm understanding, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that this was supposed to be because it's more remote and away from, so the neighborhood commercials were supposed to deal with helping food deserts, for instance, in those more remote areas, right, relatively in Redmond. So this was designated at that time, and the concept has not changed because we are trying to reinforce that with the corridor mixed use and have, neighborhood stores and all of that in 2050. So conceptually, we're still there. It's just that the form has changed a bit in terms of how it's in 2050. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Commissioner Gagne.
I had a question, but it's frankly not important. I'll save some stuff for later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Coleman, would you like to keep open or closed?
Great conversation. I'm happy to close it, though. I think we should close it. I'm fine.
We'll keep going, and then we'll come, if people have more, at the end of our issues matrix, and we can come back.
All right, the next question was just related to the Lake Washington School District property. And it was just some clarification on what the school district's plans were on this property. As we noted that the 24-acre parcel to the north is owned by the Lake Washington School District. The plans for all the different properties can be found in their capital facilities plan, which is hyperlinked here. And in that plan, they identify this as Site 44, if you want to take a look at this plan. We followed up in an email to Lake Washington School District, and they had noted that this property is being held for a potential 5th comprehensive high school in the future, but the district has no immediate plans, timeline, or funding for any projects on this site. Should also note that a change in land use and zoning designations for this proposal would have no impact on the future development of a school.
Thank you for that. I'm happy to close also. Who was the third commissioner on that? There were 3.
Sorry, I lost my mouse here.
Yeah, sorry, just a sec. Oh, Commissioner Gagne, are you okay with that answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Ready to close.
Great, thank you.
The next question or comment was just related to facilities demand. I believe we answered this previously, but I just provided a written answer and just really talked about how we do land use amendments internally with staff review and things like that. Number 6 was from Commissioner Coleman. I believe we also provided a partial answer to this. This, again, just provides a little bit more detail in relation to the zoning code, and we just noted some of the public outreach has been doing related to that. Public hearings, study sessions that Planning Commission does. We have a 21-day notice for this public hearing. We also do notifications related to our SEPA, and we have what we call an extraordinary sign or a large sign that was posted, and there's a picture of that. We also should note that we have a web page for this proposal on our docket homepage. Of course, we post all our materials to the Planning Commission webpage, and then we also have a planning kind of department newsletter that goes out to interested parties throughout the city, and we also keep the community updated in that regard. So.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just amused that the hearing date comments due is December 17th, which is today, which gives people about another 3 hours to make comments. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine to close. I appreciate the added details there.
Just a reminder, written comments are still open if anyone cares to weigh in.
Questions related to the zoning code. I believe there's some questions related to the zoning overlay and some of the other manufacturing park zones. We know that there's one zoning overlay related to noise. We provide a little bit more context related to that. We should also note that the city has a proposed center, a manufacturing industrial center that we're currently have a study on. That would protect a lot of our manufacturing and industrial properties in southeast Redmond. That's generally all the area westward, Genie, the post office, Costco, and some of the remaining parts of the Cadman Quarry, which is also going to be further subdivided and developed in the future. So we're currently having a study on that. And we should just note that this designation, it's outside of this particular property and business park designation. So any changes to this particular, this proposal doesn't have any impact on the proposed MIC. And that was actually intentional during the Redmond 2050 process when we were working on the boundaries of that. We excluded this particular property from that. So.
Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you. This can close.
Housing units allowed. I think this is probably just a good conversation for everybody. I know Commissioner Copley's on here. It's really difficult to actually estimate what the potential yield is. We have some very high-level kind of planning ratios that we use, but a lot of these assumptions you could actually change if you want. Well, not all of them. The parcel size, obviously, we can't change. The max FAR, but in terms of housing unit size, that's a very general average for housing. You could reanalyze it with a lot of different numbers and, of course, get different yield on that. But I think using 800 is a very good planning number that takes into account different sizes throughout Redmond. So again, if you want to change that number, that could get you some different yields. But this is a good baseline to kind of for your conversation or visualization. So.
Does anyone want to discuss this at all or have comments or questions? No. Okay. We'll wait to close in until Commissioner Copley's either back or does it by email. But yeah, thank you for providing the answer.
And okay, I believe this is the last one related to an email Commissioner Parner sent. And you can see some of the initial questions here, and we tried our best to provide some responses to that. First was just corridor mixed use. Does it involve office space? Are there prescribed ratios? And we note that Corridor mixed use generally allows or has uses that include office spaces. The allowed uses fall into two general categories: general sales or service, or education, public health, or other institutions, which does actually include a pretty broad range of uses. We do have it linked to our actual use code table there. Should also note that a corridor mixed use does not prescribe any particular ratios for commercial to residential. We do have minimum ground floor heights for mixed-use structures that, if it was a mixed-use proposal, that would encourage those first-floor uses. Second question was just the importance of mixed-use complete neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. We just note that this designation allows for flexibility of uses to help achieve both the city goals of creating job and developing complete neighborhoods. And this really gets to, again, your question there, the kind of the crux of this discussion is how those goals will be met, will be different for different areas of the city. And our code does not prescribe an ideal mix, but, provides like a formula or kind of a pathway of how that could be. Let's see, question 3, if the project recommended, would it nullify any other BP zoning? Again, this proposal is a specific land use and zoning map amendment. It's not a project proposal. Has no other impacts on other similarly zoned corridor mixed use or BP. That would require a whole separate amendment process similar to this. If applicants or the city wanted to make those changes, it would be a totally new process. Fourth question was just projections for jobs, type of industry. And I think I brought this up a little bit earlier. There isn't really a formula. I mean, there are different formulas of how to kind of judge kind of job applications, but we will say that as we were doing job applications for Redmond 2050, what we call the BP zone, we allocated about 450 jobs that generally was distributed over the mix of properties that were there. The Lake Washington School District, Heidelberg has a couple of properties there. There's a family trust, owns a couple of small parcels there. And again, when we do those calculations, there's not like an exact mathematical formula. We did this with the consideration of our other job applications, which again was very biased towards our centers. We put 78% of our jobs in that area. And we also looked at other like known intentions of what maybe the property owners like were saying, maybe what we heard from the community, what the underlying allowed uses were. So it was kind of I want to say a value judgment, but again, looking at all these different factors, at staff, we said, okay, this could support about 450 jobs up to, but of course, that's a very wide range. It could be anywhere between 1 and a higher number than that. But for planning purposes, for our Redmond 2050 goals, that's kind of how we divided it up. And again, changing the zoning on that would not change our numbers on that, just because they both have job generated and uses permitted, so.
I think it's very thorough, so thank you for that, and we can close this, please. Thank you.
And that is it.
All right, so we have about 20 minutes for discussion. Does anyone, especially anyone who hasn't spoken much yet, do you have further comments or questions or topics on this? Vice Chair Whittier?
Sorry, and I'm not sure if this question was answered previously. Do we have the same owner of this parcel prior to the zoning change versus after? It's the same continuous owner? Do we have any
From which
that?
zoning?
The 188th?
In 2014?
Yeah. So there's a change in terms of how the land, the use of that property. Was it the same owner pre and post?
We could look that up on the King County. There's a tool called King County IMAP. You can look at the properties. It gets a little tricky because a lot of properties are owned by LLCs. So a definitive answer can also
So
still
I'm
be
just
hard.
curious about the impact to the parcel owner,
Yeah.
pre and post.
Again, in 2014 or currently?
When the zoning changed that impacted the land use for that parcel.
Commissioner Van Nymen.
So I want the history that we talked about added into the matrix so that it can be documented. And I especially, there was something that was just barely even touched on that got my attention, which is that there had been some movement from Miramore Village here, like in terms of the business park designation. And if we keep, I mean, I'll just flat out say I think there's a lot of really different issues going on here, and I can see how there's a case to be made either way. But generally speaking, if we are like, if you're saying we're swapping residential and business park uses in between these different places, and then once it gets to the new place, we say, no, we don't want that anymore, now we're going to change that. Like eventually you end up with not enough business park designation. So that's certainly, I would want that included in the history, is that there were swaps involved and that we've fully accounted for having enough business park capacity, like, and that we're meeting our targets. And I don't know if we want to get into this now or just note it for future documentation, but Dr. Morton's comments, I had not read them yet. I don't know if you had sent them out before. I had only read your comments on the transportation plan, so I didn't read those. And I thought I knew where you were going with it, and then it went in a different direction, so I got really confused, and I want to cover all that again.
Okay, so perhaps we could follow up, if you have specific questions, you could follow up after the meeting. And if you have additional things you would like to bring into the matrix at that point.
Well, okay, you mean like via email?
That would be wonderful.
Because I'd like to get it into the matrix and discuss it.
Jeff Churchill.
Just before the next question, I want to clarify that the swaps in 2014, which we can definitely add the history into the matrix, but just know that none of the allocations done as part of that comp plan are really operative anymore, because when we did Redmond 2050, we redid them all. And so it's good historical information, but it doesn't impact the allocations that are currently in place.
Commissioner Coleman.
I just want to follow up on Commissioner Van Niemen's comments on the public comment. The thing I heard, and a similar question that I was trying to wrap my head around, was the remediation side of things. I actually happen to have done remediation, geotechnics around that, and so not necessarily matters here, but it's something that I'm curious about when we think about the capping with a business. If it's business land versus full remediation, which is very significant cost and all of those things for residential. So if you open up the business to residential and how those requirements change, the economics of it are very different as well. So in terms of this particular change, I'm just not quite sure how to think about that, frankly. I don't quite know how to process that in my own head about why would you want to kind of put residential in there if you have to have much higher remediation, and therefore some of the impact on that in terms of smaller properties potentially and other impact areas that relates to, which I can't think of all of those off the top of my head. I don't know if anybody else has a comment, but that's what I was not quite sure about, to be honest.
So that's addressed in the memo that talks about that. Ultimately, that's a site-specific issue related to a property owner and ecology, and it really has nothing to do with the land use or zone and designations. So I would refer back to the comments in the memo to respond to your answer. I can pull it up real quick, because I don't want to misquote.
This is going to be one of those hard things. Like, we have to be in the conversation that we're in this meeting, which is really just talking about, do we like the land use? Do we like the zoning? Or do we agree that it should be amended? And then whatever comes later, either in terms of development or ecology or whatever, we have no prediction over that. So that is a later conversation. Right now, we're only talking about land use.
Can I just clarify something? Just tell me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
We're being asked to change it for a reason. So part of that reason is how it would then be developed, is it not?
Well, but part of the reason that we're doing this is because Planning Commission, part of our purview is how much land is allocated for different uses in the comp plan. And so we're really at this stage of the conversation, and then whatever comes later, if it comes back to us, it comes back to us, or it might not, if they're within zoning. So we're really thinking like long-term, which uses do we want in the city? Do we have enough of them? Can we be flexible, or do we like the way Redmond 2050 was written? And that's the decision.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And sorry, Glenn, I think we're good.
Yeah, and I just pulled up the memo that you guys refer to, and the 3 bullet points really kind of speak to that, especially the second one. This was provided by our Public Works environmental staff.
Great. Jeff Churchill.
Thank you.
And I would add to that, the reason that we consulted the public works staff is because, as planning staff, we don't get these letters from ecology very often, and so we wanted to consult people who could help us interpret them. And if they had told us, this is a fatal flaw, that's information we would have shared with you. But what we learned is what we put in the memo here, that this is not an unusual situation, and that these cleanup plans are known, or the cleanup requirements are known to ecology and also to the applicant.
Commissioner Aparna.
I had a question. It's going to be quite stupid, so please pardon me, but if...
Can you speak into your mic? I'm just reading your name.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to understand, we had an EIS covering all housing being built or as part of Redmond 2050, which went in. Is that correct?
We have, through Redmond 2050 and through the environmental impact statement that was done for it, we did establish infill exemptions, which means that most residential.
Okay, only for infill, not for other types of housing that could get built.
Infill in this case means almost any housing in Redmond, under the how the state looks at it in the SEPA, the law.
I see. So if we move to a corridor mixed use, then would the EIS already, which is exempt for building housing, would that cover this zoning change or not?
I'll have to go back and look at the infill exemption and see exactly where it covers and what kind of mixed-use zones. I think that it does, but we can come back to that. But what that would not change is the cleanup requirements from ecology.
Right, but I'm just curious because it's an added level of protection for the housing piece on a brownfield site. So if you could add that to the matrix, that would be great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. So what I want to spend, we have about 10 minutes at this point. There were 2 emails that went out today, and I just wanted a chance for them to get raised in the meeting because they're not really part of the public record yet. Glenn, I don't know if you could pull up the slide that I sent. I should have given you advance notice. I'm sorry about that. So, amazing. So again, and this is just my opinion, not like a chair opinion. It's a personal opinion. But I just wanted to bring it up because this is like just going back and looking at the land use chapter of the comp plan. I was just looking at the numbers that are in there and just trying to get a sense of how Redmond, like how we decided last year that Redmond should be using its land. And it tried to like categorize it a little bit. And so what I came out with on page 3 of our land use, we have a really nice table, which is the one in yellow. And what it basically says is that a little over 2/3 of Redmond is housing. If you include mixed uses, housing, which I do because it's mostly housing. We have over a fifth of our land is parks, recreation, and open space, which I know we all appreciate. It's important to Redmond. But then that leaves about 11.3% for two designations. One is manufacturing park, and the other at 4.6%, so less than a 20th of our total land is business park. And so this isn't, I don't think this is a make or break property per se. It's not like as we got in issues, like issue number 1 of the issues matrix, it's maybe not vast, but we are dealing with a really, really small amount of business park land based on our 2050 plan. And I don't know what the future is going to bring. I think that it's important that we have this land in the city because it's probably not the most profitable land, but I suspect we're going to want the land that we have, and especially as our neighbors keep redeveloping. Like, we can't assume that Woodinville is going to have all of this for us, or that parts of Kirkland or Bellevue will have all of this for us. I really want to make sure that we can cover this need in our city long-term. So I wanted to just put this up so that people could take a look. Again, just my opinion. But if anyone had further comments on this, I just wanted to open it up. Or if not, then I will go to another email. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Gagne.
Thank you. I liked this table and I have a follow-up question based on the work that you did. So the 4.6% land for the business park, does the city have a way of tracking what percentage of that land right now is being fully utilized? And I know that's like a squishy term, but do we have a sense of how many acres are being used that fulfill that purpose? What percentage have been empty for, a 5-year period or longer? I'd like to sort of be able to wrap my brain around that.
We don't do that specifically. I mean, generally, I think as staff, we would pretty much look at Google Maps and kind of our property viewer and kind of a parcel by parcel basis. Generally speaking, I would say the Southeast Redmond is probably the undeveloped areas. The rest is fully developed out, like in the Sammamish Valley, Willows Road area.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioner, Jeff Churchill.
I'll just add to that, on a periodic basis, we do a buildable lands analysis. And the purpose of that analysis is when we're starting a periodic update to figure out, well, how much land is in use for one thing or another. And one thing we do look at is we categorize some land as underutilized. I don't think there's a number in a table that we have right now that says how much business park is fully utilized versus underutilized, but it is something we can at least look to see what kind of work effort it would be to uncover a number like that.
That would be amazing. Commissioner Van Nymen.
So does that 4.6%, does that track to that first question that we had? That's the same number, 4.6%.
Well,
We did our analysis, I think it was like 5.2, which
Okay.
is just, it's a map and kind of how we map it, yeah.
and I think that was the point before about ArcGIS versus other. Still in the ballpark of 1/20th. Other comments, or should we move on to our next item that was an email? Commissioner Parnas sent an email. Do you want to just cover that briefly?
So I sent out an email to all of you folks, probably much later in the afternoon, so you may not have read it. But fundamentally, I am not thinking that this is a project worth approving. And here are my reasons why, and it's a little more philosophical, so please bear with me. We've gone through a huge overhaul in terms of Redmond 2050 and this massive change in vision for the city. We're looking to build it upwards and outwards a little bit and build it to have more mixed use, more walkable neighborhoods. We've tried to do a lot. And we have to give that time to simmer, that vision. We are less than 1 year into the adoption of this thing. And we already start tinkering with it. I think there's fundamentally we are then starting to second guess every one of them. What that means is, in my head, we pass this one, then we have next year's docket having a lot more of these, oh, this is not convenient for us right now. And it means that the vision will, bit by bit, could unravel, potentially. I'm not saying it will. So that's the first part, that we've just done this humongous amount of work and pulled out this amazing vision, which I think is amazing at least, and we need to see it through. So that's the first one. The second one is that that vision has talked about diversity of land uses. And this goes to Chair's point that we can't, once we change this, it's unlikely to change back. What that means is we lose one part of the business park designation. Are we ready to move slowly towards a more bedroom community with supporting, neighborhood commercial maybe? I think that vibrancy and that diversity is going to be resilience for the city. The more stuff we have, the less likely we're going to fail. We can always pivot in 5 years if this isn't working out. But right now, we shouldn't be trying to second guess ourselves on that. And then the other point is that there is a tension between housing and creating jobs. Both are priorities for us, economic vitality. It's a priority for Redmond 2050. So when we look at it, it may not be a lot of jobs, or it's not like thousands of jobs, but it's 450 jobs, hypothetically. At 450 jobs, it's 450 families, technically, we're feeding. Because a manufacturing job, I'm hoping, is not a barista job, which means there's a standard of living associated with it. And therefore, it's something we should not discourage here. We cannot have only tech jobs, right? I mean, that's the other part. And I think from a perspective of housing, I think it's really key that we have housing. But we have opened up a lot of avenues for that, and we should wait and see what that yields. If we are very quick and do this knee-jerk thing right now, yes, we'll have potentially more housing, but then where are the jobs, right? So it's a balance, and I think we should wait a bit. It's not that year, is my way of looking at it.
I'm going to go over by about 2 minutes, so we just have a little bit of a moment to discuss. Commissioner Van Nymen.
I'd like to see added, we brought this up already, and I wanted in the issues matrix, is the idea of the split, a history of like the split parcels. Because to me, and I know we're not voting, that this isn't like a complete revisiting of 2050 and a change and all that. It's this one little offshoot that's a relic of the past because it's a split parcel. Like, this wouldn't be in front of us if it were not a split parcel, is the way I've been thinking about it. And so that it's not a whole area that's there where we're saying we want to change the zoning. Anyway, I want to see the history of split parcels and all that in the issues matrix.
Can you clarify what you're specifically looking
So you talked about how they are confusing and that we have gone through and cleaned a lot of them up intentionally because the concept of having a parcel that has two different zonings on it is not the greatest. And so how many of them are there? And, are we going to see this come again next year? Well, no, not necessarily, because this is here because it's a split parcel. And
hold on a second. I'm not sure we can really assume that. So how would that help us work towards a decision? I don't think we know why it's here to that degree of certainty. I think that there are many possible options. But why does the split parcel change it? Like the likelihood that people would come back and ask for?
Well, because fundamentally, to me, I mean, my starting point is that a parcel of land should have one, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but you seem to verify some of that thinking, that the idea that you have one parcel of land that's got two different zones on it is, not ideal. And that we would work toward try to resolve having different zonings on top of one parcel.
Sure, Commissioner Aparna.
So what if we flip that argument and say, okay, let's talk about it as there's a problem with the split parcel zoning, right? What they're asking for, they're not asking for a business park designation or a single designation for it. They're asking for housing specifically. That's their argument throughout, that they want to add housing. So if hypothetically we say we want only one zoning and we say let's make it business park, I mean, we can't do it. It's outside the purview of this planning commission right now. But if it is a question of just two zones and we want one zone, but they are not asking, they're asking for a particular zone. And they're all their arguments about housing and how they will bring housing. So they are going with that. So the assumption is that they want housing. The mixed use is just there, right? And that's how I'm reading it, because their memos to us is about how much housing they can provide, how it's a priority for Redmond. So they're coming with that approach. So I don't see it as a split problem. I see it as a use problem that they're trying to address.
Right. I am very mindful of time. Commissioner Gagne, I saw your hand up. Would you like to weigh in?
Nope, I'm going to email my follow-up question.
Amazing. All right. So I wish we had more time. We don't. We're going to come back and try to wrap this up next time. If people have additional thoughts that they want to send out to be included in the packet for next month, 3 weeks out, next meeting, I think that might be a helpful way of getting things across, but I also really appreciate all the points that people brought today. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, lots of food for thought, and we can hopefully come to a conclusion next time. Oh, Jeff Churchill.
It's just, could we ask that if you have questions that you would like added to the issues matrix, that you just send them in by the end of the year? It can be your holiday reading and thinking.
Yes, please be mindful of staff. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come up to wrap up the transportation plan. So we'll be back at 8:19. All right, commissioners. So we're all in holiday mode already. Now that we're restarting the meeting, I would like to switch gears to the Transportation Master Plan. I'd like to introduce Michael Hintz and Francesca Liberty. And while they're coming up, I'd just like to start by closing the written portion of the public hearing. All right, and now I will turn it over to the two of you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Michael Hintz, Transportation Planning Manager for the City of Redmond, and I'm joined here this evening by Francesca Liberty, Senior Transportation Planner. This evening, we have included in your packet a report and recommendation for the Commission to approve the Transportation Master Plan with no conditions. We're hopeful that we can work through the remainder of the issues in the issues matrix and close those out this evening. And we're happy to walk through those with you and have discussion and take any other questions that you may have. So shall we start by stepping through?
That'd be wonderful.
Starting from the top? Okay.
I'll share the screen.
Great. Francesca's sharing the screen. So let's see. The first opened issue is issue number 1. This has to do with Transportation Demand Management, Strategy 5 on school safety, not including information on e-mobility, especially regarding safety of high-powered e-bikes and e-dirt bikes, looking for more clarity in the TMP on intersections, speed limits, and where e-bikes are appropriate in each scenario. And then lastly, some info is on the page, but it should be part of the master plan. So in response to these comments from, Commissioner Perna, we have added some text in various portions of the TMP. We've added an action and we've added a call out box addressing this topic, and then also included some additional information just on the different classes of e-bikes.
This is excellent. Thank you so much. I mean, this holds this place for what's to come. So perfect. You can close it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next open item is issue 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Issue 7.
Planning Commission agrees. Oh, this has to do with that. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh.
I thought we discussed that one last week, or whenever that was. Okay, next one is issue 9. This is regarding strategy 4 in the streets plan section regarding speed reduction. And we had some discussion on this last time regarding Commissioner Weston wanted to see kind of more, maybe less definitive language in the action on that, and I've included some more background information on this strategy and this action, and recommend keeping the wording of the action. We did change a few words just to define what target speed means, and also be a little bit more open in terms of most arterials and collectors rather than individual arterial and collectors. So more open language, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm happy to close. I really appreciate the overall goal. My goal in this, like I'm pushing on this, was really to make sure that we're working towards this with community feedback, and I think the changes help with that. So that's perfect.
Great. So we'll close that one. Thank you.
Oh, one moment. Commissioner
We
Coleman.
missed number 8, which I closed on email.
Wait, I'm sorry? What was that?
Well, we just went past number 8, but it's open. But I closed it on email.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I have that noted in here.
I'm seeing it in the,
on the screen. I have it noted. It's probably not in your packet because I think the email came through after the packet was put together, but We have it closed via email.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not on my copy for some reason.
Right, if you're in the meeting, you can see the most recent issues matrix, which is what they're scrolling past.
Yeah, I'm not in the meeting, so that's my bad. Thank you.
Right. You can crib from mine.
Okay. Next open issue is issue 10. Let's see. This is regarding action 3C, talks about safety and connects to TDM. What are we doing from a safety perspective regarding e-bikes? Similar to the open issue above, we have added more language. And let's see, right, Commissioner Coleman followed up with an email on this topic as well, I believe. And I think you were suggesting that the language we have currently, pass a city ordinance or advocate for better state level guidance defining e-bikes versus e-motorcycles to provide clear enforcement. You recommended changing the or to an and. So pursue both strategies.
Yeah, I put some potential in the email that I sent. There are a couple of things in here. One was there's actually in California, in Marin, they've been going through trying to address this at a local and a state level. So I included that in here because I think it's actually helpful to look at. And so I put in some potential wording, which we may or may not want to use, but I felt that what was in here at the moment wasn't necessarily pass a city ordinance or advocate for better state level guidance wasn't clear enough. Mm-hmm. So the potential wording I put in here was first draft and pass a city ordinance defining what are e-bikes versus e-motorcycles. Now some of that may be in that first question that was in here. Who may operate them and detail specific responsibilities of parents and children 16 and under, along with clear enforcement details, then in parallel advocate for a statewide bill that addresses these same e-bike issues to create uniformity within Washington state. So that's the language that I thought was clearer for the intent of what you had in here. That was great, but it wasn't as clear to me as I think it probably should be personally.
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion. I think at the time of writing, we were hopeful that state legislation would pass, and having participated in several conversations with other jurisdictions, there are more and more that are passing their own ordinances, even though there's some hesitancy around that, just having a patchwork of laws. But as you stated, if and when a state law is passed, we can amend to be consistent with that. So I appreciate your suggestion.
Thank you. Yeah, the Marin case is worth looking at, actually, just the background to that. There was some stuff in the New York Times, and then I went and looked into it a little bit more. So it's a local ordinance approved by the governor in California was my reading of it. So anyway, just for reference. Thank you.
Do you want to close?
Yeah, we can close this. Yeah, thank you very much.
We'll close that with the understanding that we'll make those language changes. Great. Next open issue is issue 12. This had to do with the neighborhood connections map. Commissioner Gagne wanted to see that map before closing out this issue, and that map you should have seen that in the latest draft of the plan.
Yes, and I appreciate the call out box too, and I'm ready to close this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're on issue 14.
Issue 14. Similarly, this was regarding a bike level of traffic stress map that Commissioner Weston requested being inserted into the plan, and we have done that as figure 3 in the bicycle plan.
I so appreciate this change. Thank you for making that edit. I have already heard from members of the bike community in Redmond, both inside my house and then everyone they've told about it, how happy they are to see this. Because I think it really reflects what it's like to be biking in the streets of Redmond and looking forward to future changes. So thank you for making this change. Happy to close.
Okay, next issue, issue 15. Let's see. Right, this had to do with the table on page 50. Commissioner Weston suggested that it would be great to kind of show that those projects listed in the table in a prioritized fashion, and we explained the last time that that table is really just intended to show the modal corridors and what could happen in those corridors. But then we also added that we are prioritizing the transportation facilities plan and will be prioritizing the transportation improvement plan. So we've included that clarifying language so people understand that we are in fact prioritizing projects.
That's great. Thank you for the readability improvements and happy to close.
Great. Okay, next issue, issue 16, first and last mile micromobility, not a clear story for local communities on how to get to the light rail, needs more storytelling. And Commissioner Coleman followed up on this topic. And so I do want to clarify, as we've done in the issues matrix, there's kind of two things happening in your suggested language. It's kind of like what we're currently doing and what we envision doing in the future. So the plan is really about what is laying out what we will do. And then our programs like Go Redmond and our other TDM strategies or TDM efforts really give people that real-time information on how they can access light rail and how they can get around Redmond using a variety of modes. So I guess, yeah, the plan is kind of more the what we plan to do, and Go Redmond is what we are doing. And in fact, we are providing people with lots of information on how to connect with light rail.
Yeah, I appreciate the thoughts and the feedback in here. There's a couple of things for me. One is, if I'm somebody, a resident in Redmond, and like, how the hell do I get to light rail from English Hill or wherever it is, right? Where do I go? And it's still, I looked at the Go Redmond details, and it's still not clear to me how to do that. And it should be reasonably simple in terms of giving and I don't quite know where this language goes. I put something together here, like, you know, here's a crack at this. But something where someone can understand wherever they are in Redmond, how they get to light rail, because that's the big one. It's you know, if you're within a mile, you can walk. But if you live somewhere, you know, in the dark ends of Education Hill, it's a haul. I just think it needs something simpler for the community. The other thing that struck me, and this is partly having been in some, you know, I've been in Edinburgh recently and been in London recently, and in the UK there's an app which is really good that you're like, hey, I want to go from here to here. What do I do? I'm not suggesting we could just build one for Redmond, but that kind of concept feels like, hey, here's the quickest way for you to get to light rail where you are. Oh, what do I do here? There's a bus, or there's a you know, some of the smaller mobility stuff we're looking to try and do around the neighborhoods, etc. So I just think at a community level, it's not clear to people, because it's not clear to me, and I sit here and we have a conversation around it. So I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts, but I don't know if I'm sort of not really being able to read this properly, that's all.
Are you suggesting maybe something like a mention within the TMP or even on like the Go Redmond website about One Bus Away, Google Maps, City Mapper, all of those are the transit app, all of those are different mobile apps that provide exactly what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's what's so confusing. Like it's sort of, we're giving people, here's the places to go. We're not giving people a really simple view of like how to go do that from where they live.
So that's what those apps do, though.
I know,
right?
but that's
so
not,
is that?
But I'm saying that in any of the written communication we have at Go Redmond, it's very unclear. You have to really work your way through it. There's not a simple walkthrough for people. And I think if we want people to use light rail more, we want people to not be in their cars, we need something clearer. It's not clear to me. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to reflect that it's not clear,
Yeah.
despite those things.
I mean, maybe that's something we can add to like the
Yeah.
government website is here's a list of resources, here are things that are already out there.
I mean, I'm curious about that because if you live in First Hill, for example, we always like to, or Ed Hill, I should say, you want to get to light rail by transit, you go Redmond, there's a section on transit, and it brings you to the transit, the bus map, and it brings you to the schedules, and it tells you how to get to light rail using bus from Ed Hill. If you want to get there by bike, there's a bike map that shows you the routes to and through the city. Are you suggesting like specifically to light rail, to
Yeah.
downtown light rail?
Yeah.
So if you live in a particular neighborhood, this is how you get to light rail using, versus somebody having to access maps and figuring it out themselves.
I just think it should be in the first person to reflect people's lived experience within the neighborhoods. I just don't think it does that. I'm sorry, it just doesn't for me.
Yeah.
And I still would struggle. I don't know if everybody else has any thoughts around this, but I just think there's a better way of communicating it.
Yeah.
I'm not a marketing person, but it doesn't speak as being very easy to consume and understand. Hey, hi, we understand you live in, 2 miles away from Fu. Like, here's how to think about that.
Sure.
Seeing a lot of nodding. Commissioner Aparna?
Actually, I would like to jump in because I had similar questions, but associated with comment 20, item issue 21. So when I go to the Go Redmond site, it starts off with these very big pictures. That's great, but then I have to scroll down. It's not a very usable site. That's what he's getting at. And similarly, I totally get this whole idea of what the plan is going to do versus what is there right now. I have the same question, but I have a suggestion that it could be that I was thinking in terms of the mobility hubs, the neighborhood mobility hubs, because my question on 21 was related to what else is there. Now, in the plan, in the TMP, you have getting to the mobility hubs through transit is under the transit section, and then the micro-mobility section is separate. But frankly, when I go to a mobility hub, I need to see all the options in the same place. Now, I know not all of it is ready, right? So maybe a web page on redmond.gov, because I looked up mobility hub and they came a deck from June 2025 or something. That was the first search that I got. So it'd be nice to have a web page which talks about mobility hubs if that's a concept that people want to understand, which is how do I get to light rail or get to the regional hub and then move from there.
And maybe not with the jargon of mobility hub, but just
right, whatever
the scenario.
Yeah.
That,
so
like I'm trying to
get from here to there kind of thing. Now, Go Redmond has the language, but it is an extremely difficult website. It's not very usable. I see the images as distractions because when I say Go Redmond, I'm looking for information. The first thing if I see is an image and I'm scrolling down and these header images are massive, I'm put off because that's very old school.
So I'm gonna keep us bouncing because
yeah. So it's the same story as his, but it's about not in the TMP, but communication outside of the TMP.
And one more comment from Vice Chair Whittier.
I want to echo this. I mean, I think it's time for us to, I think there's an opportunity for us to be more digital. When I'm trying to figure out how to navigate my way around, I'm on my cell phone. I'm not walking around Redmond streets with my laptop. So the ability to be able to quickly figure out how do I go from point A to point B in a non-analog way is an opportunity. So I like One Bus Away app, but I would love to have a more comprehensive one that takes into consideration. There's probably a handful of apps that I use to figure out how to go from A to Z. I don't know where the light rail goes. I'm being a little facetious here, but having that ability to go from point A to point B in a dynamically driven, mobile-first experience is a huge opportunity, especially when you think about the values and the technology that powers Redmond.
So I'm wondering, because I'm just listening to all of you, I'm wondering if a solution could be something like just having the generic neighborhood thing of like even which transit lines we're talking about. Because it's like So take Grasshon, for example, like depending where you are in the Grasshon neighborhood, maybe you're taking the 225 or the 245 to Redmond Technology Station, or maybe you're taking like the B line downtown and then walking a ways. Like there's different options there, but I think like there's a first part of even just teaching people the vocab of like which bus to be looking for. If they're not regular bus riders, there is a little bit of a step into it. And so I think what I'm hearing is there's just like, we have some content, but we need beginner content that's really neighborhood specific so that people feel they've never taken a bus before. They want to get to the light rail. They don't even know if they can park for sure. You know, it's like, that's the sort of mentality, and maybe this is assuming a little bit too much expertise.
This is all great feedback, and we'll definitely share it with our Go Redmond team. I guess it's not really pertinent to the TMP and closing this issue at this point because it's really focused on Go Redmond. Can we close this issue, and rest assured we'll share your feedback with the Go Redmond team?
I don't know. I still feel like it would still get lost in translation, because to me it's still about, I still think it's part of the overall, personally, around how we enable people to think about transit in general. And it should be user-centric. I mean, I don't want to go to my own job right now, but like that's kind of what we do, and we don't assume people will know. And to make it simple and relevant to them, I think is missing. I don't think it's just, I went to one, the Go Redmond site, but it wasn't the reason I went.
It's missing on the Go Redmond site.
It's missing there, but if somebody reads the TMP, should they know? It should be clear to them in terms of like how we're thinking about it, and these pieces are in different parts of the plan, which is what was really confusing as well. So it's just language that I think we should be including in both places personally, and maybe in different ways.
So one option here is we do have the option of making an amendment, or just an amendment to the recommendation today. So if someone would like to make a motion about creating content, we can still close this item with the sense of maybe disapproval, and then create just a motion.
Yeah, well,
if you can get a second, then we can discuss, and then that could be included in our recommendation.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment. I'm not exactly sure what language.
Motion.
Sorry, make a motion. Sorry, here we go. Okay. Motion to include the amendment of using some of the language that I'd included in email. Do I need to read that out here? What do I need to do here?
Maybe you could just say, it sounded, I was hearing user-centered, maybe scenario content, how to get to light rail from different parts of Redmond.
Yeah, I think it's to be resident as user central in how we communicate to residents in their options in the moment of how to get to light rail, and certainly downtown, in a way that doesn't require them to think about every single different app, and is actually something which is easy for them to use, or easy for them to use themselves. We may not have that immediately, but over time I think we should.
Right, do I hear a second?
Can I just interject here? I appreciate your notion of kind of just telling the story a bit better, perhaps in the transportation demand management section of the plan. I would advise against putting different neighborhood scenarios in the transportation master plan. That's not where people are going to look for that information. I think what I'm hearing you say is people want more neighborhood-based and easier access to information, real-time information. The most appropriate place for that would be Go Redmond and other city web assets.
I'd also just add that the Transportation Master Plan is meant to be a longer range document. So if we include information such as take X bus route from X neighborhood to get to the downtown Redmond Light Rail Station, that information could change in the interim before the Transportation Master Plan is updated. So that would then be inaccurate further down the line.
All right. So I would like to go back to, did I hear a second? Because I was seeing some motion over here.
I second it. Can I add on to it?
After there's a second, we can discuss.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. Would we like to discuss details of what people are actually asking for? Because what I'm hearing is there's additional education needed.
I was going to, can I say something?
Yes.
I was going to pivot a little bit because I think it's really less about like, how do I go from here to here, and really more to, from an infrastructure standpoint, embed some sort of wayfinding or some sort of component so that structurally, as part of the TMP, there is an opportunity to guide people to how to transport themselves from point A to point B. That's a little bit different than saying from a marketing standpoint or from a web design or communication standpoint. It's really more from a infrastructure standpoint. How do we enable multimodal transport through the transportation system?
So I'm hearing a lot of examples, either web-based or
But really,
physical,
infrastructure.
or conceptually, that it feels like there's a gap still for people to find their way to light rail. Commissioner Aparna.
I think from a TMP standpoint, I think it would be nice to have a clear, I know there's a lot of education strategies. If there is one which is an overarching education/communication strategy which allows what we're talking about here, I don't know if I might have missed it, so if there is, please point me to it, but then that's what we would call it in the TMP. What form it takes is for later, right? I mean, the intention is that we have a way to communicate navigation possibilities in Redmond at any point in time. And that should be enshrined in the TMP. If it's there, great, please point us to it. If it's not there, then let's please add it, is what I would suggest.
Yeah, there are numerous strategies and actions focused on educating different populations in the Redmond community, including schools, older adults, the general public, about how to utilize the different transportation options in Redmond.
Yeah, but again, they are very dispersed. So what our problem is like, it's the same thing as the mobility thing. It's there, it's all there, but it's all separate. So what happens is when you don't tie it in, let's say there's an older grandpa and a child riding together or whatever, right? Like you have two different demographics riding together. They might need slightly different things.
I guess, kind of going back to what I said earlier, the TMP enshrines sort of it's the action plan for what city staff is going to do over the next X number of years to achieve what we want to achieve. In terms of educating the public, that is a real-time effort. So we do that through Go Redmond. We do that through engagement with the public, lots of engagement opportunities with the public throughout the year, giving them this information. So if what you're saying is we just need maybe a little better story of all the transportation options that are available to get people to light rail and other destinations, that's one thing. But if you're looking for more strategies focused on educating the public, I mean, I feel like we have that well covered.
What I'm actually hearing is the first part, that I think that what we're saying is that there's a lot of pieces here, but it's not necessarily clear. Like there is a lot of community discussion right now about the light rails there, but it's sort of like some people know how to use it and most people don't. Because most people are in neighborhoods that are not anywhere close to light rail. So if they want to use it, they can't. It's not, there's just a barrier there. And so what we're looking for is something for people who are not in the centers, who are in the entire rest of Redmond. We're looking for something in the TMP to say education is needed to get people from locations outside the centers to the light rail. And I don't think we really need to discuss it further than that. Do people want to vote on that? Just adding it as a bullet point to our recommendation, it won't delay our schedule.
I think that would be best because that allows us to write out a clear narrative which can be added as part of the recommendation report. And it's a way of saying that the TMP has to speak to something else which will speak to the people. It's basically that.
I just want to add something, because I did put something in my email as a suggestion, which basically starts, Redmond's transportation plan will have new guidance and options for residents who live beyond easy walking distance from light rail by expanding non-car ways to reach stations, etc. So that's one way of thinking about it. I understand what you're saying, but I'm pleased to hear it.
It's in our purview to say that we think more is needed, that there's some here and there just is extra. This isn't unusual for us. We often add like a bullet or 2 or 3 to these plans, and council can do what they want with it. It's always their decision. Commissioner Aparna.
Yeah, I think that's best, and I would recommend that Commissioner Cohen leads the text up and has that as pass it on to staff as like, hey, please add this to the report, so it goes in our recommendations.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining. I'm really not clear on
Or
what we're
abstain.
voting on.
Okay. Got it. All right, so it sounds like we would like to include an item in our recommendation asking for further clarification of how people get from areas outside of the centers to the light rail. And different options could be part of that solution. We're not being specific. We just want the through connection.
Okay.
All right, so that's item 16. And we can close?
Yeah, we can close that.
Okay, next open item is item 19. Let's see. Commissioner Van Nyman. We also, was this from the email today? No.
Yeah, there was another email today.
Yeah.
I sent.
So wondering if maybe you're not looking at the latest draft, because those changes have been made and that was attached to this packet.
I don't know. I used the link from the packet.
You did.
But can you pull it up and show me? Because I am very curious about what this is. Like, it's been killing me, like not understanding what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I got it right here. Or I will in 1 second. Scroll into the right page. Okay. And then I will share my screen. All right. So you mentioned the figure on page 42 of the TMP. Here it is. We've added a caption here. This is the people moving capacity of Redmond transportation modes in persons per hour per direction with a 10-foot lane width. So it's illustrating the differences in modes, how many, the capacity of each of those modes, showing that transit, walking, biking can carry much larger capacity than individual vehicles.
Yes, I knew there was an answer. I'm like, what am I looking at? It's just a bunch of.
Oh, that was good. That was a very good call. There should have been a caption there, and there wasn't.
Happy to close? Okay, great.
And then the figures as well. Do you want to see those? Okay, got it. Okay. Next open issue, number 21. Let's see. This was from Commissioner Perna. Is this
Yeah.
kind of related to what we were just discussing?
Yes, we can close 21. Thank
Okay.
you.
Issue 22. Could we add an action requesting signage at the entrance of all roundabouts and extra caution before building multi-lane roundabouts? Whereas we didn't add an action specific to this, we did add signage as an example when talking about the updating the roundabout design manual.
Yep, thank you for this, and I can close.
Okay, issue 23.
23, I like it, except for one thing. To be consistent with the capital facilities plan and the other ones which went before it, the word consider should be commit to, because consider leaves it very optional, and we had the same discussion in previous plans as well. But otherwise, the text works. So commit to conducting climate risk. That would be great. Then we can close it. Would that be okay?
I think so. I like the directness of that. I also, as you acknowledged last time, you don't want it to be a step and a reason for adding time and cost to projects as well.
My hope is that this is actually something that everybody is doing as part of regular due diligence, is not adding extra layers. So it's infrastructure after all. We don't want it to fail within the first couple of years. So it meets all the city goals. And it has been supported by like the other plans. There's precedent. So I don't
I want to clarify, that's capital facilities plan and the fire plan both had this language.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, and I suppose, we as a city staff needs to come up with what that risk
looks like.
assessment
Yeah,
is.
I don't want to get into very specific how long and what risks and all of that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that's a change that can be made easily. Thank you.
And yeah, if that's it, then we can close it, please. Thank you.
Okay. And let's see, I think this is our final issue 24. Can we add to the TMP issue matrix a concern that was brought up in the public comment about guidance for seniors using transit to access out of city?
Unfortunately, I can step in on this one. So unfortunately, Commissioner Copley isn't here. But since the action was to add it to the issues matrix, and you did, I am going to close that one.
Yeah, and in actuality, we changed one word. I think the public commenter had an issue with, their understanding was that we were creating like a separate, what was the original wording?
I think the original wording was a group versus a program. And I think
That's right.
they were under the impression it would be kind of siloed away from, staff and city actions, when in reality, we were really trying to incorporate seniors and the programs that they use.
So we changed the word group to program because that actually was the intent there. We want to start a kind of an older adult mobility program.
Lovely. Thank you. We can effectively close that.
Great.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, I just want to just quickly go and say thank you. We didn't talk about it, but issue 13 I closed over email, but it's all about the conversation we had about EVs, and speed and acceleration, all that. The language is great, and I really appreciate you doing that. Part of it for me is like if it, it's language in a document and things like that, but if it makes a few people think differently about how they're driving in the pedestrian zones with EVs, then great, which is what it's about. So thank you very much.
Sure.
All right, everyone. Thank you for all the work on this. Before I potentially put this to a vote, just any further comments? Do we feel good where we are? I'm seeing nodding. Okay. So in that case, what I would like to do is look for a motion to approve the Planning Commission recommendation on the 2025 Transportation Master Plan as published in this week's packet, plus the edits and issues matrix items 10 and 23, and the amendment in item 16. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I heard everyone, so no objections or abstain. In that case, that is approved. So thank you, everyone. And what we'll do is when the report, should we actually vote on the report now, or should we do one more set of language? Okay, so we'll just, we'll do the final report step at our next meeting, if that gives you time to get to council.
I think so.
There shouldn't be any changes. That's just
14th.
assuring that
Is that the,
it's made tonight.
just for my own, is that the report that was in the packet? Is what you're referring to?
So we approved the report with 2 small
Gotcha.
edits.
I see.
In the 2 items I listed, plus the amendment that we made in item 16. So we will approve that at our next meeting. Thank you so much.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we get to move to staff and commissioner updates.
Just some reminders that we are, in January, we are switching to the normal schedule, so we will be meeting on the 2nd and the 4th Wednesdays. The next meeting is on January 14th, and we're going to continue with the land use and zoning map amendments for the property on 188th Avenue, approving the report for the TMP, and there's also a briefing on the 2026 work program. And finally, Glenn Coyle will be the next commission liaison for the next quarter, so from January to March. And I'll be back as a liaison in the summer. So that's all. Thank you.
All right, quick commissioner response to that. I just wanted to say thank you to Audra for all of her hard work this quarter and her attention to detail and keeping us well supported. Thank you for your work. With that, are there any other commissioner updates? Commissioner Aparna.
This is a PSA. There is a program called Adopt a Drain. It's a stormwater drain adoption program. It's been there for years. You get to adopt your neighborhood drain. You get to name it, and there are crazy names out there. I mean, there's a competition going on, but primarily the job is to keep it free of needles and leaf debris and so on, especially when we're having such heavy storms. I've adopted the drain near my house, and last night at 2 a.m., I had to clean it out to make sure our driveways and our neighbors' driveways didn't flood. But it's a commitment, yes, but they also provide tools and other tips. So just for the people out there, it's a King County and a Washington State thing too, so name your drains, people, and clean them up. So thank you.
People want to know what your drain was named.
I forgot. It's been 3 years. I need to go and log in to figure out the name. But it was something I thought was very funny then. It's probably cringy now, so yeah.
All right. Thank you for the PSA. Anyone else? All right. Well, with that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Then we are adjourned.